Welcome back to another episode of Live from My Parents' Basement after a lengthy hiatus. I'm sitting down this week with my good friend Wade Wallace to discuss the first season of the show Invincible on Amazon Prime. It's also a comic series which is very good, and he recommended me to read years ago. I never read it because I'm a loser. We had a great time talking about it, and I think you'll enjoy listening to it. Thanks. I'm here this week with a former coworker of mine and a current friend, Wade Wallace. When I worked at the library, he recommended I read the comic Invincible. Me being the bum that I am, I never read it. But today we're talking the first season of the TV show Invincible, which is streaming now on Amazon Prime. That's not a plug. I'm not getting paid. I'm just saying. It's a good show. Wade, what did you think of it since you've read the comic? Now you've seen the first season. How do you like it?
It's so refreshing to be in a world where everybody is hype about my favorite superhero, because I got into the Invincible comics when I was in high school, ninth grade, and it was my favorite thing ever. It was only halfway done at the time. And once I finished the whole thing, there was nobody to talk to about it. And then I heard that they were making a show, and I was like, well, guess I am subscribing to Amazon Prime. And it was fantastic. I loved it so much.
I'm picky with the animated shows I watch, because I just am. I don't know. And I'm very picky with my superhero content. If it's DC or Marvel, I'll watch it because I'm a normie. Not really. I'm a big nerd, but like, everyone tells me The Boys is really good, but I just haven't watched it yet. I don't know. It seems like it's sort of gratuitous violence for the sake of gratuitous violence. I'm all for that, but it needs to serve a purpose. In this show, certainly the violence in this show is necessary and it's great. And if you're watching this, you've probably seen it, so we'll just do full spoiler review for it. Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoyed this show. Not blew me away how good it was. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned The Boys, actually, because I would almost compare it to an animated version of The Boys. Okay. I think all the violence is definitely necessary, and there is a purpose behind it. It's so great when you see a shot where someone crashes through buildings and like shit explodes everywhere, and there's also people dying during that. Yeah. It's because you never see that in other, especially animated shows. So it's very interesting.
I love Amazon Prime because it has the little details and behind the scenes things, like little trivia. If you have that pulled down, like it's a little feature for if like you hover your cursor over the screen or pause it, it'll show like trivia or who's voicing the characters. I love that. And I think at one point in maybe the first episode, it said the animators were told, you need to draw correct anatomy. So when these guys blow up, people can pause it and point out body parts. And just those little bitty details, even if it's just a flash of an organ, it makes it that much more gratuitous because they were taking the time to actually draw that.
Yeah. I especially would refer to the ending of the first episode. I think that's what everybody got really hooked on. It was just so beautifully done, and it was just so different from the comics too, because in the comics Omni-Man has outclassed these guys so hard that they don't even know he's there. It just shows them dying and they don't know what's going on, and then he appears in like the last panel. So they knew they had to do this carefully, and they did it so well.
I think, like, there's always talking about like, oh, it's turning the genre on its head. This might be the best example of it, in my opinion, because the first episode is it's very generic. Oh, the high school kid gets his powers. You know, that's Spider-Man. That's a lot of different characters. It's fine. You know, you have Omni-Man, who's the Superman. He comes to Earth, meets a woman, all that. And I will admit, I think I'm in the minority, but at the end of the first episode, I'm like, I'm going to keep watching this, but I don't know. And that post-credit scene where Omni-Man shows up and there's no music and he just murders all of the Guardians, that hooked me. And that was one of the best endings of a TV show I've seen. Just that ending of an episode, because it was just like, wow, this show's going to, wow. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the animation isn't necessarily amazing, but it's the shots in which they show everything that happens that makes it so impactful. There's no like cutting corners or tricks that you see in these long running animes or whatever.
Yeah.
They show everything. A guy gets punched and you see what happens behind him, to him, and the whole thing. It's great. I love the scene when he grabs Darkwing's leg and just slams him on the ground and his head just explodes everywhere. It's wild.
I think I messaged you and I said, I don't know why, but I find that whole scene, it's almost like stupid ASMR for me because it's just so like so brutal and violent. But there's something watching it, you're just like, this is masterful what they've done. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, well, heck, I guess we could, for people that don't like violence, don't listen to this part. We'll tell you when you come back in. But I mean, for each death, there's 7 of them. And I like that each one is a ripoff of the Justice League per member. I love that. So the first one you have, what's his name? It's the Flash. What's his character's name?
Oh, I think it might just be Red Flash or something like that. I don't remember.
Omni-Man grabs his head and he crushes his skull in his hands. Crazy. Who does he do next? Is it Darkwing next?
I don't quite remember. I watched the scene earlier today to get a refresher. Each one is like, I really like how when he kills the super speed guy, it shows the glasses that have shattered like falling to the floor extremely slowly, but the speedster's like punching him at like regular speed at that time. It's like, well done.
Well, at one point it shows his hands go limp, so he's broken his hands punching him.
Yeah.
Amazing detail. I think it was Darkwing because he breaks him and he throws the body to like sort of the Green Lantern character who's like, she's the woman that's all green. She goes, oh no. He punches through her head to the other side, like Superman does, like Superman does the Joker in Injustice, like through his head. He takes the mallet of Warrior Woman and just clubs the fish guy's head. He snaps Warrior Woman's neck. She turns around on her knees, coughs up blood and dies. And then he just like he literally just does this and cuts off the Immortal's head.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And all the deaths were all accurate to the comics, but it put so much more impact behind it too. And I like that Omni-Man ended up getting his ass kicked a little.
Yes. Oh wait, hold on.
They were all attacked.
Oh, your audio was out for a second. Could you repeat that? Your audio for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, I said I like how he got his ass beat as well because it made it more believable that they were all attacked.
Yeah.
Because that was one of my favorite differences from the comics. I would also give mad props to the entire voice cast of the show. I can't believe how many AAA stars are in this show.
I love it. I mean, obviously, probably J.K. Simmons is Omni-Man. I mean, if they ever make this a live action movie, I can't really. It's going to be different because it's almost like Kevin Conroy as Batman or Mark Hamill as the Joker. He's Omni-Man now for me. Like,
yeah,
can't really think of another guy voicing him. I think my favorite, besides him and Mark, of course, Invincible Mark. I really like Cecil and Walter Goggins voicing him. I love him.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe that that's Walton Goggins even voicing him because like all the other shit that he's in, he is pretty much sounds completely different. I like when you pause and it shows everyone that's in the scene's voice cast when you're on Amazon Prime. So I noticed that and I was like, what? I couldn't believe that was him, honestly.
Now I think you said you had. I know you said at one point you were going to have some notes for this. What do you have on your notes? Because I never come that prepared.
I actually just was like looking at reviews and stuff and just like, it's like, oh yeah, this was good. That's right. Maybe I'll bring that up. And so, yeah. I mean, the first episode, I think they all played us with like it's gonna be a standard kind of just everybody's already seen this thing. Even I fell for it because the Guardians of the Globe scene happens in like the episode 7 of the comics.
Mhm.
So I don't know why, but I also fell for that. They did it really well. Um, I really like. I think yeah, you said J.K. Simmons did great. Stephen Yeun as Mark Grayson was
Yes.
probably my favorite voice in the whole show, especially during the last episode when Omni-Man is trying to break him mentally. All the lines he delivers during that scene are just so real. It's really good.
Oh my, yes, absolutely. I get, yeah, to skip ahead, like whenever that final episode when Omni-Man just fully came out, there's so much raw emotion just in the voice acting between those two. It was baffling. I loved that final episode, and the first 25 minutes is just Omni-Man and from his perspective trying to beat sense into Mark. That's what he's trying to do, and I love the meme. It spawned that meme of him going like, "Think, Mark." I love it.
Yeah,
It's so
man,
funny.
I've been seeing so many recommended videos on YouTube and stuff where it just is like a montage of so many of those. It makes me so happy that the show's gained that popularity, honestly.
It's
It's
great.
fantastic.
Um,
Um,
no, go ahead.
I mentioned how the animation wasn't like amazing.
Hmm.
I think from someone who watches just a ton of shit and criticizes it all the time standpoint, I know it was their first season, so they probably were working with a small budget, and they clearly spent all of it on those last two episodes.
Yes.
Um, I really liked this, especially the scene when Cecil uses the satellite to
Yes.
attack Omni-Man, the hammer. That looked amazing. And it was probably the first time that the animation really shot up just completely, and it took me off guard.
I what was I gonna say? Did I just completely forget? What happened to yes, yeah. This is the big what you were saying with the big laser, and I like the line of $500 billion and it gave him a nosebleed.
Yeah.
All it did. I have a question for you because I think overall, like it is a very, I think it's a very good like satire of comic books. It does subvert, like you said, the first episode is very generic and it gets you hooked. And you're like, this is good, but till it, I mean, it even got you who's read the comics, which is very give a lot of credit to the show for doing that. The one thing I think it does, and I don't know if it's like this in the comics, but I think they could have done differently is I don't like that Amber's character, who I like, she's a good character. I don't like that she's like, oh, I know you're a superhero, and she still doesn't cut him slack. And it's like, yeah, but you're this. It's like, I don't know. That's
Yeah.
that's pretty stereotypical of characters, and it's like, well, you shouldn't. You're one of the smartest characters on this show. You're rational. Wouldn't you understand that he's saving lives? That's okay if he's missing out being with you. What do you think of that?
I couldn't help but roll my eyes at the very end when Amber came back and Mark went back to her. I mean, especially knowing it like what happens for the rest of the series, and it's obviously implied that like he was kind of going for Adam Eve and like
Yeah.
started to spend a lot of time with her for the last half of the season. Yeah, I was like, God damn it, when he went back to Amber at the end. Like I thought this was over and it should have been.
What
I
is
will say on Amber though, I thought it was interesting how they changed her character entirely from the comics. Because I
mm,
don't know if you've seen Amber in the comics, but she's just like a tall white chick with blonde hair, and she's like really popular at the school. And I think they did it to match the voice actress that they cast as her. And I started to notice they did that with other characters as well.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I don't blame Zazie Beats is a beautiful woman, so they might as well try to get to her look like she's a very attractive woman, so that's fine with me. Even like Cecil, I see what he looks like in the comics. He looks like Walton Goggins. Like he's got the hairline that's like here. So it's like, yeah, of course, why not? Why not make it like that?
yeah. Rex Flode was a really funny one because I didn't expect him to sound like what's his name,
Jason,
Jason Mandukis or
yeah.
something. Because but it's totally fits because Jason Mandukis plays a douchebag in everything he's in. So
Yeah. I going back to that last episode, whenever Mark is talking to him to Omni Man, and Omni Man's like, we are thousands of years old, and as we age, as we get older, we age slower. So you're pretty much immortal. And I love like that line of him going like, well, what about mom? And he's crying, and his dad's like, well, your mom's more of a pet to me. I'm like, that is
Yeah.
like that is such a powerful line, because it's like Mark, who's the most important people in his life, his mom, who he loves and how he now understands he'll live her lifetime thousands of times because he's just immortal, and his dad doesn't consider her anything to him, and he's just, and I love, I'm a sucker for like the hero that even though they're outgunned, they're just going to keep going. I love that he's gotten the shit kicked out of him, busted teeth, busted ribs, and he keeps saying like, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to beat you, and Omni-Man just keeps laying into him. Like, I love that.
Yeah, it's crazy how emotional it felt, honestly.
Oh,
I really liked the part where Omni-Man's like, what are you going to have in 500 years? And Invincible's like, I'll still have you, Dad. Because
yeah.
that was a direct
Oh,
line from the comic book scene. And I was like waiting to see how they would do it. And it was like, yes,
oh,
still there.
I'm gonna get chills because it's just crazy that an animated superhero show was that emotional. Like, you really have to give credit to the voice actors for that. You really do.
I think the whole thing's carried by the voice cast
Yeah.
and the soundtrack composer, because John Paisano did the music for the season, and he also did the soundtrack for Spider-Man, the PS4 game,
Oh,
which is
wow.
one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. So
I
I
see.
was very happy to see that.
I really want to play. I have an Xbox, and I don't play enough video games anymore to justify getting a new system. Like like I talked with my friend Isaac, and I think he got a PS5, and he's like, you should get it. I'm like, just nothing I want. I'm like, I know you put screen caps of 2077, and you're like, dude, this game kicks ass. And I'm like, oh,
Pretty fun.
I'm like, I don't know. But it's like, what are you looking forward to? I'm like, GTA 6 and Red Dead 3, two games that I just don't know if they're gonna happen at all. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Dude, PC's the way to go. Just get a solid PC and stick
I
with
know.
that. You've got nice recording equipment already, so just complete
I
the
know.
build, man.
I know. I know. I wish I had a camera to film this with, because I'm just using my laptop monitor, which is, it'd be nice to have crisper visuals. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you've made it this far through spoilers and you still haven't seen the show, watch the show. Don't watch it with your kids. It's not for kids. But I think you're right. I think if you stripped it down and just had voice actors, like if this was, I guess if this was an audio book, it'd still be entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. And it's super weird because from being a comic book reader, there was no audio at all.
Yeah.
There was only, so it's crazy how insanely high that ramped up the impact of everything.
I'm trying to think of
And
like, no, go ahead.
I think they only really got through like 15 comic issues in season 1.
Uh-huh.
And there's I think 144 or so total in the whole comic book series. So I don't know how far they're gonna take it, but I hope the next few seasons have as high quality as this one did.
I think they've approved the next two at least. So I mean, it's good news. Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they do the entire run. That'd be great. I'd really love that. And I feel like within the next year, I'll probably buy and read all the comics.
I was gonna ask you, yeah, like now that you're completely fucking hooked, are you gonna just buy volumes 1 through 3 and binge it?
Probably. I mean, I there's only 3 volumes of it.
Well, they're like books this thick, but yeah,
Oh,
you can buy the 3-volume collection.
probably. I buy comic books a decent amount, not a lot. I just buy like the thick volumes of them because individual issues. There's no, why would you even fuck with that? But yeah, I'd probably do that. Right? You read Sandman,
No,
dude?
like the Spider-Man villain Sandman.
No. There's this DC character named Sandman. It started out. It's like a Vertigo property, but it's set in the DC universe, and it started in the '80s. You heard of the comic writer Neil Gaiman?
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
it's Neil Gaiman. Sandman, oh, it's hard, really hard to explain. It's probably the best written comics I've ever read. Very complicated, but they make sense. They tie mythology, history, the DC universe, religion, death, dreams, everything together. Like it's amazing.
Okay.
But the first volume, since they didn't know if it was going to be successful, they very loosely tied it to the DC universe. And the main character, Dream, who's actually his appearance is based off of Robert Smith of The Cure. So he's extremely pale with big black hair. He has to get back his dream items, and he has to go meet John Constantine, who's the DC character. And he also has to go talk to Martian Manhunter to get something else back. Martian Manhunter knows where something's located. And then from that point on, it drifts away. But it's so good because in the DC universe, it's presented this way. You have the Justice League and the Dark Side level threats that threaten the world, potentially the universe. And then 10 steps above that is like Sandman, where he's like, yeah, all that's great and everything, but I'm talking about everything, existence. So they don't even fool with this, that like the stuff the Justice League deals with is like small potatoes to him. He's like, I got to deal with he's like, I got to deal with heaven and hell. He goes to hell and has to like fight Lucifer to get something back. One of my favorite aspects is he's in like the 1400s and he meets William Shakespeare. And William Shakespeare says, I want to inspire dreams in men. And so Dream tells him, okay, I will guarantee you no one will forget your stories. So they tie in history and things like that. And I don't know. I'm about 5 volumes in, but it's the best written comic I ever read. I think you'd really enjoy it. It's really good.
I've never even heard of that. So that sounds really awesome. How many issues are there in total? Is it still going?
Well, no. This was finished. This was like from 1989 to like the mid 90s. There might be like the collection I'm reading.
Oh, wow.
It's like I think there's maybe 15 total volumes, but they're like this thick. They're not big. What's also neat is there's DC characters preceding this version. So his name's like Sandman. His name is Dream, but his nickname is Sandman because it's like when you go to sleep, you see the Sandman, things like that. And so in the decades leading up to this character, there were other superheroes within DC called Sandman. It was like a guy in the 40s with like a gas mask, and he'd spray sand at criminals and crystallize them. Then there was another one that had to do with dreams. Well, this character retcons that and goes, yeah, those two characters existed, but they existed because of me. I went missing for 70 years, and so the universe called to them to take over for me. They didn't know what was going on. So it ties together a lot of that DC continuity's lore pre-reboot, like pre-Flashpoint and all that. No one knows what that means, but I don't know. It'll probably end up being the best comic I've ever read. Comic run I've ever read.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That guy sounds ultimate. Hell yeah.
Dude, he's a badass. Like he has like 3 names. It's Dream, Sandman, and Morpheus. He's a badass, man. It's an amazing, and it's also has a lot of horror elements. Like there's a lot of graphic, like horror stuff in it. It's neat because like the animated Justice League show from the early 2000s, there's a character on it named like Dr. Destiny, and he's just in it. He's like this cackling villain with like a skull and a purple hood. And then he's in this comic run, and he's this like horrifying person that like makes people kill themselves. It's incredible. It's really great. Anyway, off that, it's really great. I highly recommend it. Okay, Invincible. Out of 10 Invincibles, what do you give it?
Out of 10, dude, out of 15 is perfect. It's funny that you mentioned one of your favorite comic series, because I wanted to bring up Preacher, if you've ever heard of that.
It's so crazy. I watched the show up until like the last 2 episodes, and I just didn't finish it. I don't know why.
I've only ever watched the show as well, and it's one of my favorites, honestly. It's completely ridiculous. I love it so much. I think it was written by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg maybe, and Seth Rogen helped write Invincible as well. So I
Oh,
thought that
yeah.
was interesting. Yeah. And he plays Alan the alien. So
Yeah, that's cool. And I love that little, I love shit in comics or stories like this to where there's characters like him. That one character fleshes out the larger universe, and he's just like, oh, I just go around and make sure every planet is protected. I'll just leave because I made a clerical error. I'm leaving. I love stuff like that.
yeah, it's crazy how much bigger everything gets, honestly, with like the coalition of planets and the Viltrum Empire. It's like the secret war going on. It is wild. I cannot wait to see how it's done. And it's cool how at first Omni-Man is like a Superman kind of, or maybe even a Dragon Ball Z Saiyan, if you would.
Yeah,
But in both of those stories, like their backstory was wiped out, like they don't exist anymore, and they're like the last one or whatever. But
yeah.
in this one, Omni-Man is like one of many, and he's like not the best one, and there's like a lot of them, and shit's gonna hit the fan soon.
I also like with him, and don't get me wrong, I love Superman. But I like that Omni Man is just invulnerable and he can fly. He doesn't have laser vision or freeze breath or any crazy shit. It's just like, no, you just can't. He's just strong and can fly and invulnerable. That's it. No extra
Yeah,
stuff, no weaknesses. It's just that's what he is. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because he's not really a superhero in this world where superheroes exist. He's just an alien that happens to be part of an extremely powerful race.
Yeah. That I think what besides that fight besides him murdering the Guardians of the Globe in the first episode, I think the one everyone's also talking about is how he holds Mark in front of a subway and just
Oh yeah.
dozens of people explode him. Does that happen in the comics?
No, it doesn't. As far as I know, anyway, I don't remember that happening in the comics. It is very graphic how they fight
Yeah.
in the comics, and there's still a lot of the dialogue, but I don't think the particular scenes happened. Like, I really liked when he was holding that girl while trying to hold the building up at the same time,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
like he got knocked through again, and he was just holding her arm by the end of it. It was crazy.
Oh, okay. That reminds me of something. I'd be stupid if I didn't say this. My friend Isaac Combs. I told him, "Hey, watch this." So he binged it all. Just first. So the Friday after the last episode come out, he watched all of it on Saturday. He's like, "Dude, this is amazing. I love this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he said he liked it because it reminded him a lot of Spider-Man 2 of how Mark is this guy to where it's like being a superhero is great at first, but then it starts ruining every other aspect of his life. And I've always had a soft spot for Spider-Man 2 because like Peter Parker in that, life keeps beating him down. It's miserable. Literally everything that could go wrong for him in his personal life goes wrong because he's Spider-Man. And at the end of the movie, he's just like, tough shit. He's like, I have to save people. He's like, I doesn't matter if my life's shitty. It's my responsibility to help others. And I like that show has a little
Yeah,
bit of that. I love
and
that.
and Spider-Man 2 is one of the best, I mean, movies of all time too.
Completely
So
agree.
I like how Invincible takes a lot of my favorite themes from my favorite movies and puts them together. It's so juicy, so fantastic.
I
Cannot recommend it enough.
and I like in comics or just stories in general to where it's like the here, it's like it's like rationality versus emotion. That's just life. But I like that Omni Man tries to tell him like you'll be like these people are ants. You are immortal. And Omni Man, and then it makes sense. From his perspective, that from him and Mark's perspective, that makes sense. But Mark's like, I don't care. He's like, why does that matter to me? He's like, I'm not gonna let you kill everyone on Earth. Why? I don't care if I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna protect these people. And it's
Yeah.
just like that flies in the face of reason, but you're just sitting there going that's what a hero does. It doesn't, it's like, does not matter. It's like, there's that Captain America quote from the Civil War comic where he's like, there's going to be times when literally everyone's going to tell you you're wrong. And if you know it's right, you have to continue to say it's right. You can't give in. And it's just, I don't know. It's great stuff like that, man.
Yeah. And I love how Omni-Man just even touches on that when he's like, oh, I made a mistake raising you as a human and not as a Viltrumite. And it's like,
Yes,
man, the clash between these two ideals is just epic right now.
it's amazing. Like it was some of the most like raw emotion on like a television show I've seen in a long time. Like a very long time.
It delivers a lot of Kirkman style stuff as well. So yeah, I couldn't be more happy that this is what they chose to adapt into a TV show out of everything that has been popular. This comic book series that ended 6 years ago finally gets it. So
I
good.
know. I know. Um I also like the scene of how Omni-Man, he has the memory of Mark hitting a home run when he's a little boy. And for a second, Nolan, well, Omni-Man, he for a second he like understands like, oh no, this is beautiful. He's like, I get to see my son be happy, and he's happy for him, and he's excited, and it's like that instant. It's like, oh no, there's he's learned what love is and what humanity is. I don't know how he turns out in the comics. I don't want to know, but I like that there is just the tiniest inkling of conflict of like, am I wrong? If what is
Yeah.
what I've been doing for thousands of years actually wrong? Have I learned something? And that's great. I love that. Just that little bitty detail.
Yeah, and I love how he ends up just leaving Earth, and it shows like it's a single tear from his eye because he doesn't know what's good anymore. And then it's the tensity of him maybe coming back at the very end, but it's just Alan the Alien again, here to give you exposition on everything that's about to happen in the next season.
I know. It's great. It's really great. All right. I think I've gotten everything I got to say about it out.
Yeah, I think other than just the unconditional love I have for Invincible, yeah, that is about it. I know you mentioned wanting to do something about the last movie we've both seen.
Oh, yep. New segment. I told Wade about this. We're just gonna say what the last movie we saw was. But before we start that, I just want to say real quickly, they are developing a Sandman show for Netflix, so you better get reading. So
Okay, okay. Yeah, I will find those.
they're
Absolutely.
honestly, if I could like, I could let you borrow the first few volumes. I really could. They're great.
That would be cool. In this world of superhero hysteria where it's a lot of it's really bad, I could use some. So
So, yeah. All right. So what's the last movie you saw, Wade? Last movie you watched?
it's so easy for me to keep track of this because I actually have a letterbox where I can just review movies. Um, so the last movie that I watched was a sci-fi film from 2018 called Annihilation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's
No,
got
great.
an all-female cast, Natalie Portman. I I had never seen it up until like end of April. So um I only went into it because I'm a big fan of Alex Garland, the guy that directed it, because he did Ex Machina, which is really good.
Great
28 Days Later, which is really good. I don't remember what else he did. I think he um he did Dread from 2012, which is some people like it. Uh, it was a decent one, but yeah, Annihilation blew me away.
I
Um,
I love that movie. Love it. I think it's a great movie.
yeah, one of the best takes on sci-fi for sure. Nothing dumb happens at all. Everything it feels real and it feels there. The scene when they're watching the video, that guy with all his insides moving, like, ooh, it's just wild.
See, like I always talk about like I want sci-fi. My favorite kind of sci-fi. It needs to be philosophical, existential, or just like it has to have horror elements. That movie hits the nail on the head.
Yeah,
Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies because it's all about it's one of the what does it mean to be human, but it's done probably the best way, done in the best way possible. That's why I love Blade Runner. Annihilation's great. I love Ex Machina. That movie
oh
is
yeah.
amazing.
Dude, the cast. Oscar Isaac is somehow in like all of these movies, which is funny because
Yeah, I
he's like
know.
one of the best characters in all of them as well. So yeah, Ex Machina is really good. Another sci-fi film I love that I don't know why, just the kind of the realistic aspect of it reminded me of this was gosh, what is it called? It's that one where the like big oval shaped ship comes to Earth and they're trying to communicate with it. Amy
Arrival?
McAdams is in it. Arrival. Yes. I love that movie so much.
Yeah. I think I have a letterbox, but I'm bad about entering movies on it. And I've been like keeping track of my movies, but I just put it like in my notes what I've watched. So
I
recently,
don't watch them a lot, so it's like when I do, I always have a lot to say.
recently I've seen this movie before, A League of Their Own, about the women's baseball league in the 40s.
Okay.
It's just a fun little quaint movie. My brother's never, I don't know if my little brother had seen it, but it's good. It's about how it's based off a true story of how during World War II, a lot of professional baseball players had went overseas to fight in the war. And so some baseball promoter, I think his name was Wrigley. It's the guy that owned the Cubs at the time, started a women's baseball league. And for like 10 years, there's this women's baseball league. It's just a nice, fun movie. It's not a documentary, but it's just, I don't know. Tom Hanks is in it.
I can't say I've ever seen that.
It's it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's just a fun little quaint movie to watch. I don't know. Good movie. I wanted my little brother to watch it because I don't know. He likes stuff like that, just movies.
Yeah.
That's probably. You ever seen Smokey and the Bandit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I hope everybody has.
Oh, that's like my little brother's favorite movie, Smokey. He likes having on like he plays on a Switch a lot, and he loves just having background noise. So if you see it, like he's in the living room by himself playing on a Switch. He got Animal Crossing, the new Animal Crossing, and he loves it. So he'll like be playing on there, playing Fortnite or I don't know, whatever he plays, Minecraft. And he'll be playing, and then you'll see him, and he'll just put it on Smokey and the Bandit as background music. Like background noise like playing on the Switch. It's great.
Comfort movie. That's great. I love
It's
that.
a comfort movie. All right, man. Thanks for coming by. It's been
Yeah, this
really
was
been
fun.
great. Dude, it is. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
I think we're living near each other now. So next time we should do this in person. I'm getting my vaccinations in like 2 weeks, man.
Good. Yeah. I've had people do it on like this way and in person, and they've like one of my friends. He came and did it in person. As soon as it ended, he's like, "Dude, it's so much better in person. It's like so much better."
I could definitely see that. Yeah, being the case.
Because it just it sucks if like you're with someone and they don't have great connection. And it's not their fault. It's just how it is. Because the reactions aren't as quick. You can't pick up on those things as quickly. But when it's in person, it's nice vibes, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next time for sure. Very soon.
Yeah. I think soon I might be doing a podcast about like best sci-fi movies. I think I had it with a couple other guys. You could come on there with us and do it as well.
Oh, I've got a huge list, my man. I would love to join that.
I told them, I was like, the guidelines are no Star Wars / Star Trek, no superhero movies. Those are out.
Thank you.
I'm like,
honestly.
I'm like Star Wars, Star Trek, that's their own genre. Superhero movies, that's their own genre. So you can't be like, well, Guardians of the Galaxy. No, it doesn't count. That's like saying the first Captain America, that's like the best World War II movie. It's not. It's a superhero movie. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me on that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not a big Star Wars guy, like at all. I don't like hardly any of it.
Oh well, the last movie ruined it for me.
The last movie, yeah. And the one before that as well. I don't remember what it was called, but the one that they had Ryan Johnson come on and direct. It was like his second movie ever. Such a disaster. God.
The problem, I hated The Last Jedi, but it was salvageable. Like, sure, it did some stuff I did not like, but you could fix it. And I actually had decent hopes for this movie because a lot of people, Force Awakens is a retread of A New Hope. Darian Wigington, our old co-worker, was quick to point that out. He's like, he's like, Force Awakens sucks. It's A New Hope. I'm like, well, you're right, Darian.
Yeah,
like you're right. I like it. I liked it. But then the new one comes along, and spoilers if you haven't seen it, but who gives a shit because it's a terrible movie. I guess Palpatine never died. So I guess the first 6 movies were irrelevant. Why'd we have them? I guess the story of Anakin Skywalker is irrelevant. Luke Skywalker helping him become the chosen one is irrelevant because I guess they never brought balance to the Force. Whoop-de fucking do. Why'd you do this? Like, it's like you ruined it. You're not going to retcon it, so you've ruined it. I'm not going to watch your shit anymore.
I will say, have you played the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, that new game that came out?
I have.
That's a masterpiece, my man. That is great Star Wars content. I highly recommend that.
I've fallen off on my video game play so much. The last game
I've been going wild. It's like all I do, man.
Oh, I do. I still love them, but there's just not much out there. Like the last game. Well, I played this game more or less on and off, like pretty consistently for a year. Was Red Dead Redemption 2? Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
Sure.
I think I'm at 90% completion, and I still do my first playthrough for old time's sake. I'm not going to get 100% on it because it's impossible for that playthrough. But there's like still shit I find just 90% done, and it's like, oh, I didn't even know. Like I just find like a trinket. I'm like, this is weird. I don't know. It's such a detailed game, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of the Red Dead roleplay modded online community for Red Dead 2 for a while. It's really fun. You know how like GTA roleplay has been popping off kind of online. A lot of streamers are doing that. It does exist for Red Dead 2. It's very detailed. It's highly realistic. It's great.
Yeah. Well, let's continue this conversation off the air because I'm not sure if people, my listeners,
that's a good point.
This dirty stuff. But I have thoughts to say about that. But anyway, Wade, it was great having you on. We need to do this again soon, man. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Watch Invincible.
Certainly.